This is Jenna Spinelli from the Democracy Group and the Democracy Works podcast. And in this lesson, we are going to talk about consistent content creation. Specifically, we'll discuss the importance of creating a consistent publishing schedule as a podcaster and how to set up processes that can help you create and maintain that schedule. It's one thing to know how to gather quality content that sounds good, but something else entirely to deliver that content to listeners on a regular basis. And that's what we're going to dive into today. It is very, very difficult to build an audience without a consistent publishing schedule. Think about your own habits as a consumer, whether it's a TV show or video series, a newsletter you subscribe to, or a podcast. You expect the creators you're following to deliver content to you consistently. That's why you subscribed. That's why you signed up. That's why you're choosing to devote your time and attention to that person over all of the other content that's out there. So we all, as podcasters and creators, really have a responsibility to our listeners and our audience to deliver content consistently. And it is very difficult to engage in advertising or cross-promotion if you don't have a consistent flow of episodes available that you can use to host those ads or promotions for other podcasts. And finally, you're helping your audience build the habit of listening to your show. You want them to come back again and again, and ideally hit subscribe in their podcast app. So now that you understand a little bit about why it's important to publish consistently, let's talk about how to do it. And the first big question to ask here is, what is your publishing schedule going to be? And the answer to that question is different for everyone. In general, podcasts tend to fall into several different categories. There are daily shows, weekly shows, bi-weekly or monthly, and finally, shows that are released by season or serially. So a group of episodes, usually somewhere between 8 and 12, that are released either all at once or week by week over that period of time, much like you would think about a season of a TV show. So how do you decide which of these options is right for you? And let me just say, there is no one size fits all for everyone. Even when it comes to podcasts about politics or democracy or educational shows, everyone is different. And to figure that out, you need to think about, what is your capacity? Are you making this show on your own? Do you have a team helping you? Are you working with outside producers? The more people you have, the more resources you have available to you, the more often you can put out episodes. So if you are working with a team of people, as I do on Democracy Works, you might be able to have a weekly show, which is what we do. But I'll tell you that if it was just me working on the show, it definitely would not be weekly. It would probably be bi-weekly or maybe even monthly, depending on what else was going on. So again, consider your capacity to produce episodes and to produce high quality episodes too. I guess on the other end of that spectrum, if I was doing episodes on my own, I could put them out very quickly if I didn't spend a lot of time editing or didn't care about sound quality. But again, with how many podcasts are out there, you really need to focus on creating high quality audio that is going to keep people coming back. If your show doesn't sound good, people are not going to be as inclined to continue listening to it on a consistent basis. And that leads into the next question to help you decide your publishing frequency. And that's, how much do you have to say? If you are doing a deep dive on one particular topic, maybe a seasonal or serial format makes the most sense. You can spend 8 episodes diving really far into a particular area, and then that's it. Maybe you do a different topic for your next season, but there's no need to keep putting out content when you've exhausted everything you already want to say. Your listeners will realize that, and they will tune out if they sense that you're repeating yourself too much or that you're putting out episodes for the sake of putting out episodes. The same thing goes for an interview type of format, especially in a particular niche like democracy. I think it is easy to fall into the trap of repeating yourself, particularly if you have guests on who are collaborators or know each other's work. You can feel like you're having the same conversation over and over again, which is not valuable in the long run for your listeners either. So The final question to ask yourself as you're thinking about your production schedule is, what are your long-term goals? If you know that you only want to have a podcast for the next year, maybe you put out episodes a little more frequently. But if you think you're going to be in it for the long haul, then maybe you scale back so you can, make sure you keep up that momentum over the course of the long term. And again, there is no one-size-fits-all answer for everyone here. So once you've picked your schedule, it's time to start planning your episodes. And as I look out across podcasts, what separates those that publish consistently from those that don't is planning. To be able to put out episodes daily, weekly, bi-weekly, or even monthly, you have to know what the episode is going to be about. You have to book the guest. You have to set up a time that works for everyone to record. You have to allow enough time for editing to happen, time to write your show notes and get everything ready for production, time to create assets for promotion on social media and other places. It's a lot of work, and it's sometimes easy to get so lost in one part of that process that you forget about all the others. I have been in situations with my show where our episodes come out on Monday and it gets to be Thursday and I haven't even posted about that episode on social media because I'm so focused on the next one and the one after that and booking my next guests and everything that comes with it. My sweet spot, or the way to prevent those situations from happening, is to try to work about 2 or 3 weeks ahead. So if I have an episode that I know is going to publish, let's say on May 15th, for example, then by about May 1st, I should have everything ready to go, editing done, show notes written, post scheduled on our podcast hosting platform, maybe still working on some social media graphics, but by and large, it's done. And I'm already on to the episodes that are coming out May 22nd, May 29th, and on down the line. The cadence is going to look different depending on your publishing schedule. I imagine it would be pretty hard to work 2 or 3 weeks ahead on a daily show, for example. Use that as a guide and think about how you can tailor it to your specific release schedule. And I think you'll find, if you're able to do this consistently, that you will get into a rhythm. It will probably feel pretty hectic, pretty chaotic at first, but you'll get into a rhythm over time. And just like any project, you get more familiar with it, more comfortable with it, the more you do. So the last piece of this, and maybe the most important one, is keeping everything straight. All of those things I mentioned a few minutes ago, booking guests, planning topics, recording episodes, editing time, promotion, the dates that the episodes are actually going to come out. You need a system to be able to track all of that, or at least I do anyway. Maybe you all are organized enough to be able to do it just from your brain, but I am not. So I lean on a couple of different tools and processes to help in this regard. One is called Trello, which is a neat kind of visualization board. You can create a topic card for each of your episodes and set up a workflow where you move that episode from column to column as it goes through your production process. If I have an idea for an episode, I will create a card for that, put it in my ideas column, and then when we actually start working on it, move it into the guest booking column, and then on to the interview scheduled column, then interview complete, and then editing, and then post-production, then to scheduled, and finally to published. And along the way, I'm adding my colleagues from my team, tagging them in and out as it's their time to work on the episode. So that is pretty easy to use, particularly if you're working with folks who are not tech savvy. Something similar to this is Airtable. It's just another way to organize and visualize and keep track of your data. You can set up an Airtable for your show, invite your colleagues and collaborators to it. You can all be working from the same document, which is very nice. It's the old one version of the truth. Everybody has the same information at the same time. You don't have people working from old versions of spreadsheets or documents that haven't been updated. Everybody's always on the same page. You could also do something using the Google Suites, some combination of Google Docs and Google Sheets, maybe other Google products as well. I would encourage you to try out a couple of different systems, especially at the beginning if you're starting up something brand new. See what works best for you. See what feels right. See what your team likes if you're working with a team. And then if you start one of these tools and you find it's not working, don't be afraid to switch to something else. Don't let the tool bog you down or get in the way of what is otherwise a good process for your production. And then one last tip here is to keep a running list in your podcast app of choice of potential guests that you want to bring on your show. I know I often find guests for Democracy Works because I hear them on other podcasts. So if you do that, you can just save the episode to your playlist. And then whenever you are looking for ideas or getting ready to start your next round of interview scheduling, you'll have all of your potential guests right there to come back to. It's also great for interview prep. You can hear what they said on that other podcast, or you can make note of that in your Airtable or your Trello or whatever you're using for your project management. So to recap, podcasters need to publish consistently so they can make listening a habit for their audience and give them content to look forward to. Publishing consistently is also helpful for advertising and cross-promotion because it ensures that you always have an inventory of episodes available so that other podcasts can advertise or otherwise promote on your show. To determine your publishing schedule, think about the capacity that you have, how much you have to say, and what your long-term goals are for the show, and pick an option that feels right for you. And consider tools like Trello, Airtable, and Google Docs to help you streamline all of the elements that go into producing a podcast episode. So with a little bit of planning and a little bit of technology, you will be well on your way to creating a consistent, high-quality show that your listeners will be excited to hear anytime it comes into their podcast feed. Check out the additional resources section for links to everything we talked about and some other tools that can help you create content consistently.